Guilty, the judge shouted, as Nurse Evelyn Harper was handcuffed in front of doctors, prosecutors, and military officers who believed they had just destroyed her life. To them, she was only a quiet courthouse nurse accused of falsifying evidence and letting a key witness die. But when an elderly Navy veteran collapsed in the middle of the hearing and the entire courtroom froze, Evelyn did something no civilian nurse should have known how to do. Then a 5-star Navy admiral rose from the back row, stared across the silent courtroom, and called her by a call sign that did not exist in any public record. The judge stopped breathing. The prosecutors went pale, and what happened next was enough to shake even the toughest sailor in the fleet. Before we continue, hit the like button, subscribe, and comment where you're listening from. Welcome to the Silent Badges Stories. This story is about to get unforgettable. Guilty. Judge Conrad Bell slammed his gavel so hard the sound cracked through the courtroom like a gunshot. Nurse Evelyn Harper did not flinch. The 2 deputy marshals beside her moved at once. One took her left wrist. The other took her right. Cold steel closed around skin that still smelled faintly of antiseptic. Across the aisle, doctors watched her like she was a disease. Prosecutors smiled. A row of military officers sat stiff in their dress uniforms, medals bright beneath the ceiling lights. Most of them would not meet her eyes. Judge Bell leaned forward from the bench. His face was red. His silver hair had been combed into a shape too perfect to be natural. "Evelyn Harper," he said, each word thick with disgust. "This court finds you responsible for obstruction, evidence tampering, and criminal negligence resulting in the death of a protected federal witness." The courtroom held its breath. Evelyn stood in bright, vivid blue scrubs that looked painfully out of place among dark suits and polished Navy uniforms. Oversized sleeves hung loose around her wrists. Her hospital badge had been clipped to her chest an hour ago. Now it lay on the prosecution table. Evidence. That was what they called it. Her light brown hair was pulled into a plain bun at the back of her neck. A thin scar crossed above her right eyebrow. A pale burn mark disappeared under the left sleeve of her scrubs. She looked tired. That helped them. Tired women were easy to break in public. Judge Bell stared down at her. "You were trusted with the medical care of a key witness. You betrayed that trust." Evelyn said nothing. Assistant U.S. Attorney Miles Rourke rose from the prosecution table. He was 42, handsome in the polished way of men who practiced concern in mirrors. His Navy suit cost more than Evelyn made in a month. His smile was small and satisfied. "Your Honor," Rourke said, "the government requests immediate remand. Ms. Harper has proven she is a flight risk." A murmur moved through the room. Flight risk. Evelyn almost smiled. If she had wanted to run, nobody in that courtroom would have seen her again. Judge Bell nodded. "Granted." The deputy on Evelyn's left tightened his grip. A woman in the second row whispered, "She killed him." Another voice said, "Just a nurse. Thought she could play detective." Evelyn kept her eyes forward. No reaction, no defense, no tears. That bothered them more than crying would have. Rourke turned toward the gallery. He wanted the moment seen. He wanted the reporters to catch Evelyn in cuffs. He wanted the evening news to show a quiet courthouse nurse exposed as a criminal. The witness chair was empty. That was the real cruelty. Chief Petty Officer Samuel Griggs should have been sitting there. 81 years old, retired Navy, silver hair, warm hands, a laugh that came out like gravel in a tin cup. He had been the witness who could destroy half the room. Now he was in the courthouse medical holding unit downstairs, declared dead 3 days earlier after a sudden collapse under Evelyn's care. That was the official story. The official story was a lie. Judge Bell raised his gavel again. "This court is adjourned." The doors opened. Reporters surged in the hallway. Deputies guided Evelyn away from the defense table. Her public defender, a nervous man named Alan Pierce, touched her arm. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Evelyn looked at him. "Don't be." His face crumpled with confusion. Then the courtroom doors at the back opened again. Not loudly, just enough. A man entered in a dark navy dress uniform. He was old but not weak, tall, broad-shouldered, white hair cut close. His chest carried rows of ribbons that made several officers in the room straighten without thinking. 5 stars shone on his shoulder boards. The murmurs died one by one. Even Judge Bell froze. Fleet Admiral Thomas Calder walked down the center aisle with the slow certainty of a man who had commanded oceans. No one had announced him. No one had cleared him through the front. He simply appeared. Rourke went pale. Judge Bell forced a smile. Admiral Calder, this proceeding has concluded. Calder did not look at him. His eyes were fixed on Evelyn. Something old moved behind them. Recognition, grief, maybe fear. The deputies stopped walking. Evelyn met the Admiral's gaze. For the first time all morning, her mask cracked by a fraction. Not enough for reporters. Enough for him. Calder removed his cap. His voice filled the courtroom without effort. Night glass. Every officer in the room went still. The name hit Evelyn like a door opening in a sealed room. Her hands tightened inside the cuffs. Rourke's mouth parted. Judge Bell stood. What did you say? Calder ignored him. He kept walking until he stood 10 feet from the woman in blue scrubs. Evelyn Harper, he said softly. What have they done to you? No one breathed. The court reporter stopped typing. A young marshal near the door whispered, Night glass? One of the older Navy captains in the gallery turned white. He knew the name, or knew enough to fear it. Evelyn's voice came out low. Admiral. Calder's jaw flexed. You should have called me. I couldn't. You should have called somebody. I tried. Her eyes flicked once toward Rourke. Just once. The prosecutor saw it. His face tightened. Judge Bell brought the gavel down again. This court will not be turned into a theater. Calder finally looked at him. The room seemed to shrink. Judge Bell, he said, you just convicted a woman whose service record is sealed under naval authority. You do not possess clearance to view. Bell's face went redder. This is a civilian criminal proceeding. It stopped being civilian when you buried a Navy witness. A gasp moved through the courtroom. Rourke snapped. Objection. Calder looked at him. You are not in trial anymore, Counselor. Rourke reached for his folders. Your Honor, this is improper. The Admiral is attempting to intimidate the court. No, Calder said. If I were intimidating the court, everyone would know. The doors opened again. 2 NCIS agents entered, then 2 more. Dark jackets, gold letters, calm faces. Evelyn closed her eyes for half a second. Too late. They were all too late. Judge Bell pointed toward the deputies. Remove the defendant. The deputies did not move. One looked at Admiral Calder. The other looked at the NCIS agents. Power had shifted in the room, and everyone felt it. Then a crash came from the hallway outside. Hard. Wet. Human. A woman screamed. The courtroom turned. Another scream followed. Medic! We need a medic! Evelyn's head lifted, not like a nurse hearing panic, like a hunter hearing a branch break. A deputy opened the courtroom door. A courthouse security officer stumbled in, face drained. Witness down! He shouted. Old Navy guy. He's alive. Rourke froze. Judge Bell gripped the bench. Evelyn moved 1 step forward. The chain stopped her. Calder turned slowly toward Rourke. Alive, the Admiral said. Rourke swallowed. The hallway erupted with shouting. Clear the way! He's not breathing right. Get EMS! Evelyn raised her cuffed hands. Take these off! Nobody answered. The security officer stared at her. He's turning blue. Evelyn looked at the nearest deputy. Take these off. The deputy hesitated. Judge Bell barked, Do not remove those restraints. Evelyn looked at the judge. For the first time, everyone saw the change. Her shoulders squared, her spine straightened. The tired courthouse nurse disappeared without moving an inch. Something colder took her place. "You can explain procedure to a corpse," Evelyn said, "or you can unlock the cuffs." The deputy unlocked them. Judge Bell shouted. Rourke cursed under his breath. Evelyn was already moving. She crossed the courtroom fast, not running, not panicked. Controlled, direct, efficient. Admiral Calder followed. So did half the room. In the hallway, Chief Petty Officer Samuel Griggs lay on the marble floor beside a toppled wheelchair. His eyes were open. His mouth worked without sound. His lips had a blue edge. A young paramedic knelt beside him, frozen with a bag valve mask in one hand. "He was dead," someone whispered. "They said he was dead." Griggs's hand clawed weakly at his throat. Evelyn dropped to her knees. "Move." The paramedic moved. She checked his airway. Pupils, pulse, skin, breath pattern, no wasted motion. "Name," she said. The paramedic blinked. "What?" "His name." "Samuel Griggs." Evelyn leaned close to the old man's ear. "Chief Griggs, it's Harper. Stay with me." His eyes shifted. Recognition flickered. His hand grabbed her sleeve. "Blue," he rasped. Evelyn went still. "What did he say?" Rourke demanded. Evelyn ignored him. She looked at Griggs's fingernails, then his pupils again, then a faint mark behind his ear, almost hidden under thin white hair. Her face changed. Not fear. Confirmation. "He wasn't dead," Evelyn said. "He was silenced." Rourke stepped back. Judge Bell pushed through the crowd. "That is an outrageous accusation." Evelyn snapped her head toward the paramedic. "Get me oxygen, suction, IV access, naloxone, atropine, and every medication bag that traveled with him." The paramedic moved this time. A doctor from the courthouse medical unit arrived, sweating through his shirt. Dr. Warren Sibley, the man who had signed Griggs's death certificate 3 days earlier. "Stop," Sibley said. "She is under arrest." Evelyn did not move away from Griggs. Sibley pointed at the cuff still hanging from the deputy's hand. "This woman has no authority here." "I have a patient with a pulse," Evelyn said. "That gives me enough." She opened the medical kit herself and found the hidden vial beneath the gauze. No label, clear fluid, no record. Admiral Calder's face hardened. Griggs coughed once, dragged air into his lungs and gripped Evelyn's sleeve. "Who did this?" she whispered. His eyes moved past her, toward Sibley, toward Rourke, toward Judge Bell. "All 3, he rasped. The hallway went silent. Calder stepped beside Evelyn and looked at the judge. This court is now a crime scene. 3 days earlier, Evelyn Harper had been invisible. That was the way she preferred it. The federal courthouse in Norfolk looked impressive from the street. White columns, bronze doors, flags snapping in Atlantic wind. Inside, it was mostly tired marble, bad coffee, and people pretending procedure made them honorable. Evelyn worked in the medical holding unit 2 floors below Courtroom 6B. No one called it a clinic. It was too small for that. 2 exam rooms, 1 locked medication cabinet, 1 crash cart that needed maintenance, a narrow desk with 3 computers, 2 of which worked when they wanted to. Evelyn had worked there for 11 months. 11 months of checking blood pressure on frightened defendants. 11 months of treating panic attacks before arraignments. 11 months of cleaning blood from split lips after holding cell fights, while lawyers argued upstairs about justice. She wore bright blue scrubs every day. Not navy, not dark. Bright hospital blue. The color made her easy to underestimate. Most people saw a nurse and stopped looking. That suited Evelyn fine. Her badge said, Evelyn Harper, RN. It did not say former NCIS. It did not say special agent. It did not say night glass. That name belonged to sealed rooms, dead drops, secure channels, and one operation that still woke her at 3:17 every morning. Nobody in the courthouse knew. Not the marshals, not the clerks, not Dr. Warren Sibley, who supervised the medical unit twice a week and acted like the place existed only to annoy him. Not Judge Bell, who liked defendants sedated, witnesses quiet, and nurses obedient. Not Miles Rourke, who visited the medical unit too often for a prosecutor who claimed to trust the evidence. Evelyn noticed everything. That was the problem. She noticed Judge Bell's clerk carrying sealed envelopes to Rourke's office after hours. She noticed Sibley signing medication logs without counting inventory. She noticed military witnesses arriving nervous and leaving silent. She noticed the security cameras near holding room C glitching for exactly 28 seconds every Thursday. She documented none of it on courthouse systems. Courthouse systems could be searched. Courthouse systems could be altered. Instead, Evelyn kept a black notebook in the false lining of her lunch bag. Old habit. Paper had saved her life once. Paper did not send alerts when opened. On Monday morning, Chief Petty Officer Samuel Griggs arrived in a wheelchair with a U.S. Marshal behind him and fear hidden under a Navy ball cap. He was 81, thin as a rail, with white stubble and hands spotted by age. His cap read, USS Ranger. His eyes read Survivor. Evelyn looked up from a medication reconciliation form. Chief Griggs? That depends, he said. You the nurse or the last person they send before the sharks? Evelyn almost smiled. Nurse. Good. Sharks usually wear nicer shoes. The marshal snorted. Evelyn gestured toward exam room 2. Come on in. Griggs rolled himself forward before the marshal could push him. Pride mattered. Evelyn saw that and let him have it. Inside the room, she closed the door halfway. Not all the way. Never all the way when dealing with protected witnesses. Any chest pain? She asked. Only when lawyers talk. Shortness of breath? Only when prosecutors promise protection. Evelyn checked his pulse, strong but fast. He watched her hands. Most patients watched faces. He watched hands. You prior service? He asked. No. The lie came smooth. His eyes narrowed. You check corners like shore patrol. Evelyn wrapped the cuff around his arm. Old habit from bad neighborhoods. Bad neighborhoods teach people to watch exits. You watch reflections. Her hand paused for less than a second. Griggs saw it. He smiled with half his mouth. Relax, he said. I'm old, not stupid. Evelyn pumped the cuff. Those aren't opposites. He chuckled. Blood pressure, 168/94. Too high. Understandable. You nervous about testifying? Griggs looked toward the half-open door. The marshal stood outside, pretending not to listen. Wouldn't you be? Depends what I knew. Griggs's smile vanished. For one moment, the old sailor looked beyond the tiny exam room, beyond the courthouse, beyond Norfolk. Somewhere at sea, maybe. Somewhere dark. I know where the bodies went, he said. Evelyn kept her face neutral. Inside, every sense sharpened. What bodies? Griggs studied her. That question sounded real. It was. Then you're the first one in this building. Evelyn removed the cuff. Chief, are you in danger? He gave a dry laugh. Honey, I was in danger the second I remembered the manifest. The word hit something in Evelyn's memory. Manifest. Navy logistics. Unlisted transfers. Missing sailors. Rourke had built his case around procurement fraud at a naval medical contractor. That was the public version. Inflated invoices. Fake equipment. Bribes. But Griggs had been brought in under sealed witness protection. Too much security for paperwork. Not enough security for murder. What manifest? Evelyn asked. The door opened before he could answer. Miles Rourke stepped in with his practiced smile. Chief Griggs, he said. How are we feeling? Griggs's hand tightened on the armrest. Evelyn saw it. Rourke saw Evelyn see it. His smile thinned. "Nurse Harper," he said. "I'll take it from here. This is a medical exam, and I'm the prosecutor responsible for his testimony." Evelyn met his eyes. "Are you also licensed to monitor blood pressure?" The marshal looked away to hide a smile. Rourke stepped closer. His cologne filled the room. Expensive, sharp, too much. "Chief Griggs and I need a private word." "No private interviews without defense notification," Evelyn said. Rourke's face cooled. "You give legal opinions now?" "I read signs on doors." She nodded toward the courthouse policy tape beside the cabinet. Rourke glanced at it, then back at her. Something ugly moved behind his eyes. "You're very careful for a nurse. You're very interested in being alone with a witness." The air changed. Griggs looked from one to the other. Rourke smiled again, but it did not reach his eyes. "I'll speak with Judge Bell about your attitude." "Please do." He leaned closer. "Careful, Ms. Harper. This courthouse eats people who forget their place." Evelyn held his stare. "Then it must be starving." Rourke left. The marshal let out a low whistle. Griggs watched Evelyn with new attention. "Who are you?" he asked quietly. "Your nurse." "No." His voice dropped. "You're something else." Evelyn checked his oxygen saturation. "Today, I'm the person telling you to drink water and avoid prosecutors." "That sounds like medical advice I can follow." He reached into his jacket with slow fingers. The marshal shifted. Evelyn lifted one hand. "Easy." Griggs pulled out a folded piece of paper. Old. Creased. He pressed it into Evelyn's palm. "Don't open it here." Evelyn did not look down. "What is it?" "Insurance." "I'm not your lawyer." "No, but I think you might be the only person in this building who knows when a room is wrong." The marshal stepped in. "Chief, we need to move." Griggs nodded, but his eyes stayed on Evelyn. "If anything happens to me," he said, "ask why a dead sailor got paid for surgery in Guam." Then he was gone. The wheelchair squeaked down the hall. Evelyn stood alone in the exam room with the folded paper in her hand. Her pulse stayed calm. Her mind did not. A dead sailor. Surgery in Guam. A manifest. She slipped the paper into her scrub pocket and finished the chart with ordinary words. Hypertension. Anxiety. Cleared for testimony. Ordinary words were useful. They hid extraordinary things. At lunch, Evelyn locked herself in the staff bathroom, stood on the toilet lid, and removed the vent cover above the sink. Inside was a small waterproof pouch, a habit she had never broken. She opened Griggs's paper. Not a note. Numbers. Dates. Initials. Shipments. Names. At the bottom, one phrase written in shaky handwriting. "Blue ledger is still open." Evelyn's mouth went dry. The blue ledger had been an NCIS ghost file 6 years earlier. Not official. Not acknowledged. Not supposed to exist. It tracked missing Navy medical funds, falsified death certificates, and wounded sailors whose records had been altered after classified operations. The file had died with Agent Daniel Cross in a parking garage in Alexandria. At least, that was what Evelyn had believed. Daniel Cross had been her partner. He had also been the reason she left. Evelyn folded the paper carefully. Her hands were steady, but the bathroom felt smaller. 6 years disappeared. She was back in a rain-dark garage, kneeling beside Cross with blood under her palms while he tried to speak. "Night glass," he had whispered. "Don't trust the clean ones." Then a shot had cracked concrete near her head. She had dragged him behind a pillar. Too late. Always too late. A knock hit the bathroom door. Evelyn froze. "Harper?" Dr. Sibley's voice. "You in there?" She flushed the toilet with her foot and stepped down. The vent cover clicked into place. She opened the door. Sibley stood outside in a white coat with a tablet tucked under one arm. He was 55, round-faced, soft-handed, and always irritated. "There you are," he said. "Judge Bell wants Griggs sedated before testimony." Evelyn stared at him. "Why?" "He's agitated." He was alert. "He's old." "That's not a diagnosis." Sibley's face hardened. "Administer the medication." "No. I'll report you." "Write neatly." 2 hours later, Chief Griggs was found unresponsive before testimony. The official report said cardiac arrest. The medical log claimed Evelyn had cleared him and administered a sedative she had refused to touch. The hallway camera went dark for 28 seconds. The folded paper vanished from her locker. By nightfall, federal agents were at her apartment. By morning, the courthouse nurse was on trial. By the third day, Judge Bell called her guilty. And Evelyn Harper understood the old rule again. The cleanest rooms hid the dirtiest blood. Evelyn Harper had not heard the name Nightglass spoken aloud in 6 years. Not in public, not in private, not even in dreams. Dreams used Daniel Cross's voice. They used rainwater, concrete, the hollow ping of a casing bouncing somewhere in the dark. But Admiral Calder's voice was real. It had pulled the name into the courthouse hallway and left it there for everyone to stare at. Nightglass. Reporters whispered it. Marshals repeated it under their breath. Navy officers looked at one another with the strained expressions of men realizing they had walked into a classified storm without an umbrella. Evelyn ignored them all. Chief Griggs was breathing, but not safely. His airway remained unstable. His pulse was too slow. Sweat soaked his collar. His pupils had widened after the antidote, but his muscles still twitched under the skin. Whatever they had used on him was not ordinary. That made sense. Ordinary poison would have been too easy to find. "Vitals," Evelyn said. The young paramedic swallowed. "Pulse 52. Blood pressure 90/60. Oxygen 91 with assisted ventilations. Keep bagging every 6 seconds, not faster." He nodded fast. Dr. Sibley stood against the wall with 2 NCIS agents beside him. His face had turned waxy. "This is insane," Sibley said. "He was pronounced dead." Evelyn did not look up. "By you. I followed protocol." "You followed a script." Rourke stood near the courtroom doors, one hand empty now that his phone had been taken. His eyes kept moving. Judge Bell remained near the bench doors, still wearing his robe, still trying to look like authority had not left him. Admiral Calder crouched beside Evelyn. "Tell me what you need." "Ambulance bay locked down. No one leaves. No one touches courthouse medical storage. I need chain of custody on every vial, bottle, syringe, and disposal bin from the past 72 hours. Calder looked at the nearest NCIS agent. The agent moved. Evelyn continued. "I need Griggs transported to Naval Medical Center Portsmouth under guard, not a civilian ER. Rourke snapped. "You do not get to dictate witness handling." Evelyn finally looked at him. Rourke closed his mouth. Calder stood. "She does today." Judge Bell's voice rose. "This court is still in session." "No," Calder said. "This court is a crime scene." The words shut the hallway down. A reporter lifted a camera. An NCIS agent stepped in front of the lens. "No recording," the agent said. The reporter protested. The agent's face did not change. Evelyn leaned close to Griggs. "Chief, listen to me. I need one word. Can you give me one word?" Griggs's eyelids fluttered. His mouth trembled. "Ledger," he whispered. Evelyn nodded. "Blue ledger?" A tear slid from the corner of his eye. "Yes." The paramedic glanced at Evelyn. "What does that mean?" "It means people died for paperwork." Rourke spoke too quickly. "He is confused." Evelyn kept her fingers on Griggs's pulse. He remembered a classified fraud file while hypoxic. That is inconvenient, not confusion. Judge Bell stepped closer. "Ms. Harper, you are still a convicted defendant." Evelyn looked at the cuffs hanging from one deputy's hand. Then convict me again after I save your witness. Belle's mouth tightened. You are making a spectacle. No, Evelyn said. You did that when you buried him alive. The hallway erupted. Belle shouted for order. Calder raised one hand, and somehow silence returned faster for him than it ever had for the judge. Evelyn saw everything at once. Sibley sweating, Rourke scanning exits, Belle angry, but not surprised. The Navy captain from the trial gallery standing at the far end of the hall, half hidden near a vending machine. There. Evelyn's eyes held on him for 1 second. He turned away. Too late. She had him. Admiral, she said quietly. Gray-haired captain. West corridor, left hand in pocket. Calder did not turn his head. Threat? Unknown, but he attended every day of trial and left before verdict. Calder's expression did not change. Agent Price. One NCIS agent moved casually down the hall. The captain saw him and walked faster, then ran. Stop him, Evelyn said. The hallway exploded into motion. The captain shoved a clerk into Agent Price and bolted toward the stairwell. 2 marshals chased. A security officer reached for his radio. The captain pulled something from his pocket. Not a gun, a small black device. Evelyn saw the thumb press down. Down! She shouted. The lights went out. Emergency red strips flickered along the floor. People screamed. A door slammed. Smoke began pouring from the courthouse medical corridor. Not thick enough to kill, thick enough to hide movement. Evelyn grabbed the paramedic's wrist. Keep air going. Do not stop unless you lose both hands. He nodded, terrified. Calder moved beside her. What was that? Diversion. He wanted the hallway blind. For Griggs? For evidence. She looked toward the medical unit, then toward Griggs. Choice. Patient or proof. That was always how they did it. Force you to choose. Make you live with the cost. Daniel Cross bleeding in a garage. A drive hidden under a storm drain. A shooter escaping while Evelyn held pressure on the only person who could name him. Don't trust the clean ones. Evelyn's jaw tightened. Not this time. Admiral, I need 2 agents with Griggs. Nobody touches him except medical transport. And you? I'm going after the smoke. Calder looked at her wrists, still red from cuffs. You're unarmed. Evelyn picked up an oxygen wrench from the crash cart. Not exactly. Then she ran. Bright blue scrubs flashed through red emergency light. People pressed against walls as Evelyn cut through smoke toward the medical unit. No panic, no wasted steps. The corridor dipped left, blind corner. She slowed before it, listened. Footsteps, 2 sets, one heavy, one dragging. A cabinet door slammed. Glass broke. Evelyn crouched and looked at the reflection in a fallen metal tray. Dr. Sibley was inside the medication room, not detained anymore. One NCIS agent lay on the floor outside, coughing, alive but dazed. The gray-haired captain stood over him, wearing a respirator mask. Captain had a name. Evelyn had seen it on his uniform. Captain Morris Vale. Navy Medical Logistics. Clean record. Clean shoes. Clean ones. Vale shoved blister packs and vials into a red disposal container. Sibley's hands shook as he pulled labels from bottles. You said she was just a nurse, Sibley hissed. Vale grabbed him by the collar. She was never just a nurse. Evelyn moved. The oxygen wrench hit Vale's wrist. The black device dropped. Vale twisted fast, military trained, but old. Evelyn drove her shoulder into his ribs and slammed him into the cabinet. Sibley screamed and tried to run. She hooked his ankle with her foot. He hit the floor hard. Vale recovered and swung. Evelyn slipped under it, caught his arm, and turned his momentum into the wall. Not flashy, not cinematic, efficient. His forehead struck plaster. He dropped to one knee. Stay down, Evelyn said. Vale laughed through blood. Night glass. That stopped her for half a breath. He knew. Of course he knew. You should have stayed buried, Vale said. Evelyn kicked the black device away and pressed the wrench against his throat. Who reopened Blue Ledger? Vale smiled. You did? Sibley whimpered on the floor. I didn't know who she was. Evelyn looked at him. You signed a death certificate for a breathing man. They told me he was gone. His pulse? I didn't check. The confession was small, pathetic. Enough. Agent Price stumbled into the doorway with his weapon drawn. Clear, Evelyn said. He stared at Vale on the floor, then at Sibley, then at the wrench in her hand. Ma'am? Secure them. Preserve everything in this room, especially the unlabeled vials and torn medication labels. Price cuffed Vale first. Sibley sobbed when the cuffs closed. This was Rourke, Sibley said. He said it was national security. He said Griggs was compromised. Evelyn crouched beside him. Who gave the order? Sibley's eyes darted to Vale. Vale said nothing. Evelyn leaned closer. You can be the doctor who got scared, she said. Or the doctor who helped bury a Navy witness alive. Pick one. Sibley broke. Bell, he whispered. Judge Bell cleared the transfer. Rourke brought the vial. Captain Vale said the Admiral would never know. Which Admiral? Sibley started shaking again. Which Admiral? Not Calder, he said. Another one. I never got the name. Vale laughed softly. You think this ends in a courthouse basement? Evelyn stood. A chill moved through her. Blue Ledger had never been one file. It had been a map. Medical contractors, naval hospitals, false death reports, witnesses erased through paperwork. 6 years ago, Evelyn and Daniel had believed they were one arrest away from exposing it. Then Daniel died. The file vanished. Evelyn resigned before they could make her vanish too. But Griggs had found something. A manifest. A dead sailor paid for surgery in Guam. And now people in a federal courthouse had tried to kill him twice. Agent Price's radio crackled. Medical transport arriving, witness breathing. Admiral wants Harper back now. Evelyn grabbed the red disposal container before anyone else could touch it. Vale's smile faded. Good. Tell the Admiral, she said. We have the poison source. She turned to leave. Vale spoke behind her. Crossbag too, you know. Evelyn stopped. The name hit Evelyn like a blade. Daniel Cross had been her NCIS partner. He had died 6 years earlier in a rain-dark parking garage after whispering one warning. Do not trust the clean ones. Evelyn crouched in front of Vale and smiled without warmth. Thank you, she said. Vale blinked. For what? For confirming you were there. His smile died. Agent Price dragged him up in cuffs while Evelyn carried the evidence back to Admiral Calder. Before she could speak, Price's radio crackled again. His face changed. Sir, he said. Naval Medical Center reports an armed breach attempt at the ambulance entrance. Calder turned toward Evelyn. Griggs. They were going after the witness again. Evelyn pulled on a fresh pair of gloves. The snap echoed through the hallway. Everyone stared at the nurse in bright blue scrubs. Calder asked, Nightglass, are you back? Evelyn looked toward the secured elevators. I never left, she said. Get me a vehicle. The courthouse medical wing went silent after the Admiral said the name. Nightglass. It did not sound loud. It moved through the room like a blade under a door. Judge Warren Vale still stood behind the bench with one hand on his gavel. His face had lost its color. A minute earlier, he had been shouting guilty at a woman in bright blue scrubs. Now he looked like a man who had opened a sealed file and found his own name inside. Evelyn Harper stayed on one knee beside Chief Petty Officer Samuel Griggs. Her wrists were still red from the cuffs. Her hands were steady. Griggs lay on the polished courtroom floor with his collar torn open and a courtroom deputy holding an oxygen mask near his mouth. His pulse fluttered under Evelyn's fingers. Too fast, too weak. Wrong rhythm. The old sailor's eyes rolled once, then fixed on her face. "Stay with me, Chief," Evelyn said. Griggs tried to speak. No sound came. His lips were blue at the edges. The prosecutor, Miles Rourke, stepped forward. "Your Honor, this woman is a convicted defendant. She cannot touch a witness." Admiral Thomas Calder turned his head. Only that. Rourke stopped moving. Calder was 74, broad through the shoulders, white-haired, and still built like command had never left his bones. 4 rows of ribbons crossed his dark dress uniform. "Mr. Rourke," Calder said, "if you interrupt her again, I will have you removed from this room." Rourke swallowed. "Admiral, with respect, this is a federal proceeding." "With respect," Calder said. "That man is dying." Evelyn ignored both of them. She lifted Griggs's right eyelid, pinpoint pupil, heavy sweat, airway wet, pulse uneven, not a stroke, not a heart attack. Something introduced fast, something meant to look natural. "Who gave him water?" she asked. Nobody answered. Evelyn looked up. "Who gave him water?" A young clerk pointed toward the witness table. The bottle was already there. Evelyn's gray-blue eyes moved to the bottle. Half full, cap loose, clear plastic, no label. "Deputy," she said, "bag that bottle. Do not touch the rim." Judge Vale slammed the gavel. "I will decide what evidence is preserved in my courtroom." Evelyn did not look at him. "Then decide fast," she said. "Because if that bottle disappears, so does the proof someone poisoned a Navy witness 10 feet from your bench." The room froze again. Rourke's face twitched. A deputy grabbed an evidence bag from the marshal's station and sealed the bottle. Evelyn leaned close to Griggs. "Chief, blink once if you can hear me. 1 slow blink. Good. Blink once if you tasted bitterness. 1 blink. Metallic? Another blink." Evelyn's jaw tightened. "Organophosphate variant," she said. The courthouse nurse behind her stared. "Like pesticide?" "Military-grade nerve agent cousin. Low dose. Delayed onset." Rourke barked a laugh too sharp to be real. "That is absurd." Evelyn looked at him for the first time. It was designed to become absurd after he died. The bailiff crossed himself without thinking. Griggs seized. His heels hammered the floor. Evelyn moved before anyone screamed. "Hold his shoulders. Do not pin his arms. Turn his head." 2 deputies obeyed. The younger courthouse nurse trembled beside the crash bag. "Atropine," Evelyn said. "Now." "We only have standard emergency meds." "Then check the naval transport kit brought with him." The nurse blinked. "How did you know he had one?" "Because Chief Griggs was not a civilian witness. He was protected movement." Calder's eyes sharpened. A Navy corpsman pushed through the back doors with a sealed green case. "Admiral, this was in the transport vehicle." "Open it," Evelyn said. The corpsman hesitated. "She is under arrest?" Rourke snapped. Calder stepped closer. "She is in command of this patient." Judge Vale's knuckles whitened around the gavel. "This court recognizes no such authority." Calder stared at him. "Then this court can explain to the Navy why it watched a chief petty officer die for procedure." The case opened. Evelyn took the auto-injector, checked the label, and pressed it into Griggs's thigh. Click. Then another medication. Then oxygen. Then suction. Her movements were not dramatic. That made them more frightening. No wasted motion. No panic. No performance. Just a woman everyone had dismissed cutting death down 1 step at a time. Griggs's seizure eased. His chest hitched. Color returned by a fraction. Evelyn counted under her breath. 8, 9, 10. The monitor beeped from the portable kit. Heart rate 138. Blood pressure 80/50. Bad but moving. Alive. The courtroom did not breathe until he did. The corpsman stared at Evelyn. "Ma'am, Where did you learn that protocol? Evelyn sealed the used injector. From a case that never happened. Calder moved closer. Night glass, he said again. This time, softer. Evelyn's face did not change, but something behind her eyes did. A door opening, or a wall cracking. Judge Vale pointed at the deputies. Remove her from the witness. Nobody moved. Vale's voice rose. I gave an order. The senior deputy looked at Calder, then at Griggs, then back at the judge. No, sir, he said. The word landed harder than the gavel. Rourke stepped back as if the floor had tilted. Evelyn checked Griggs's pupils again. He needs Naval Medical Center, not County General, not courthouse holding, direct transfer, full toxicology, full chain of custody. Rourke shook his head. He is the central witness in a criminal matter. He stays under court authority. Evelyn stood, slowly. The room seemed to rise with her. Bright blue scrubs, thin scar above her right eyebrow, burn mark showing where her sleeve had pulled up, a small pale line at the left side of her neck. No badge, no weapon. Still the most dangerous person in the courtroom. Mr. Rourke, she said, Chief Griggs was poisoned after I was convicted and before he could testify. The water bottle was placed at his table. His protective kit was kept outside the room. The medical deputy assigned to him was delayed at security, and the only two people who benefited from his death were the prosecutor who needed my conviction to stand, and the judge who refused to let him speak. Vale's mouth opened. Evelyn turned to him. You shouted guilty too soon. Nobody spoke. Then Calder looked to the federal marshals at the rear. Secure the courtroom. Nobody leaves. Judge Vale slammed the gavel again. You do not command my court. Calder's voice dropped. I command every naval file that man was about to open. The marshal in charge stepped forward. Courtroom locked. Rourke's phone buzzed. Evelyn heard it. A tiny vibration against wood. Rourke slid one hand toward his jacket. Hands visible, Evelyn said. Rourke froze. Calder saw it too. The marshal took the phone. A new message glowed on the screen. Is he dead? The marshal read it aloud. The courtroom became a tomb. Rourke whispered, That is privileged communication. Evelyn looked at Judge Vale. No, she said. That is motive. Griggs coughed. A wet, painful sound. His fingers grabbed Evelyn's sleeve. She knelt again. He pulled the oxygen mask away just enough to speak. Locker, he rasped. Evelyn leaned closer. Which locker? Archive. His chest shook. 47. Rourke lunged forward. Do not let him speak. The senior marshal shoved him back. Griggs fought for air. Evelyn's voice softened. Chief, look at me. One word at a time. Not judge, he whispered. Vale exhaled like a man saved. Then Griggs's eyes slid toward the bench. Worse. Evelyn felt the old cold settle into her spine. Not fear, recognition. There was always someone above the visible man. Someone clean. Someone protected. Someone who never touched the poison but knew exactly where to place the glass. The transport team arrived 2 minutes later. Nobody blocked Evelyn now. She walked beside the stretcher with one hand on Griggs's wrist. At the courtroom doors, Judge Vale found his voice again. Ms. Harper, you are still remanded to federal custody. Evelyn stopped, turned. For 1 second, the quiet nurse returned. Tired eyes, pale face, wrists marked from steel. Then Nightglass looked through her. I know, she said. That is why you should be worried. They moved through the corridor under armed escort. Reporters shouted questions from behind barricades. Evelyn kept walking. Evelyn kept walking. Calder waited until the elevator doors closed. Then he spoke. You vanished 7 years ago. I retired. No. People retire with paperwork. You disappeared with a sealed casualty file and a burned informant network. Evelyn watched the numbers descend. You read too much. I signed the orders that kept your file buried. That got her attention. Calder's face remained stern, but his eyes softened by a degree. Agent Evelyn Harper, NCIS Special Projects, call sign Nightglass. 12 classified naval corruption investigations. 3 trafficking rings broken. 2 stolen weapons pipelines stopped. 1 admiral court-martialed because you would not look away. Evelyn said nothing. And 1 informant lost, Calder added. The elevator felt smaller. Do not use him to move me, Evelyn said. I would not dishonor him that way. The doors opened to the secure ambulance bay. Evelyn stepped out first, then stopped. Too quiet. No distant sirens. No staff rushing. No normal hospital noise from the connected corridor. Just a loading dock, 2 idling vans, and a guard who stood too still. Her eyes moved once, left hand hidden, right shoulder tight. Shoes not issued to courthouse security. Evelyn touched the stretcher rail. Back. The corpsman blinked. Ma'am? Back now. The guard lifted his hand. Metal flashed. Evelyn slammed the stretcher sideways. The first shot hit the wall where Griggs's head had been. Chaos exploded. The loading dock became sound and movement. Deputies shouted. A nurse screamed. The false guard raised his pistol again. Evelyn drove her shoulder into him before the second shot lined up. He was larger, younger, armed. It did not matter. Her elbow cut into his wrist. The pistol clattered across concrete. Her knee struck his thigh. He folded just enough. She used his own momentum against him and sent him into the steel bumper of the nearest van. Hard, final, not dead, not gentle. Done. Calder pulled Griggs behind the ambulance door with surprising speed for a man his age. Contact front, Agent Price shouted. 2 more men came from the service corridor. Black jackets, no insignia, suppressed weapons, professionals. Evelyn grabbed the fallen pistol, cleared a jam in one motion, and slid behind a concrete pillar. A deputy stared at her. You know how to use that? Evelyn gave him the look. He stopped asking questions. The first attacker fired twice. Evelyn waited. Not for courage, for rhythm. Every shooter had one. Breathe, lean, fire, recover. She stepped out between beats and fired into the sprinkler pipe above him. The pipe burst. Water hammered down. The attacker flinched. Price tackled him from the side. The second man turned toward Griggs. Evelyn threw the empty evidence case at his face. A ridiculous weapon. A perfect distraction. The corpsman hit him low. A marshal hit him high. The man went down under 3 bodies in a flood of shouted orders. Then silence failed to return. Alarms wailed. Water poured. Griggs gasped behind the ambulance door. Evelyn slid to him on her knees. Mask on. The corpsman pressed oxygen back over the chief's face. Evelyn checked his pulse. Still weak. Still alive. Calder looked at the attackers. Who sent them? Evelyn searched the false guard's jacket. No wallet, no ID, 1 burner phone, 1 courthouse access card, and a folded paper with a service route diagram. Loading dock 3 circled in red. Price stared. Someone changed the route before we arrived. Not someone, Evelyn said. She looked at the access card, authorized by Judicial Chambers, Judge Vale's office. Calder's jaw tightened. Vale. Maybe, Evelyn said, or someone using him. The burner phone vibrated in her hand. A message appeared. Confirm recovery of witness. Evelyn typed back with her thumbs. Witness expired. Nurse contained. 3 dots appeared. Then 1 reply. Bring her to. Price read it and went pale. They want you alive. No, Evelyn said. They want to know what I remember. Calder looked at her. About which case? Evelyn stared at the phone. The past came back in fragments. A naval archive room in San Diego. A young petty officer named Daniel Pike, sliding a flash drive across a coffee-stained table. A promise whispered near a vending machine. If anything happens to me, Nightglass, Locker 47. Then fire. Then a report that called his death accidental. Then a superior officer telling Evelyn to stand down. Then the smell of burned paper. Daniel Pike, she said. Calder's face changed. You knew him. He was my informant. Samuel Griggs was his division chief. Evelyn nodded once. And today he was going to tell the court what Daniel found. Price lowered his voice. Which was? Evelyn looked toward the medical center doors. That a defense contractor was billing the Navy for counterfeit surgical devices and laundering the money through veterans' charities. The corpsman stared. Surgical devices? Implants? Vascular clamps? Trauma kits? Things sailors trusted inside their bodies. Calder's voice turned quiet. How many died? I never got the final count. Evelyn looked at Griggs. Because Daniel died before he gave me the archive key. Griggs's eyes opened, weak, terrified, but awake. 47, he whispered through the mask. Evelyn nodded. I heard you. Price's radio crackled. Courthouse command reports Judge Vale has ordered return of prisoner Harper. Calder took the radio. Denied. The voice on the other end hesitated. Sir, the judge says she is a convicted felon. Calder looked at Evelyn. No, he said. She is federal evidence. Evelyn almost smiled. Almost. The smile died when the burner phone vibrated again. 10 minutes. Archive cleansed. She stood. We have 10 minutes before they destroy Locker 47. Calder pointed toward the ambulance. Griggs goes to toxicology. Agreed. You go with Price. No. Calder's eyes hardened. That was not a suggestion. Evelyn stepped closer. Admiral, if the archive is compromised, every name dies again. Daniel Pike, Samuel Griggs, every sailor with counterfeit parts in his chest. Every family told it was a complication. I am going to Locker 47. And if it is a trap? It is. Calder studied her. Then he gave one sharp nod. Price. 4 marshals. Full body armor. Evelyn looked down at her bright blue scrubs. I will take a vest. Price blinked. You want a weapon? I want chain of custody bags, a camera, and bolt cutters. That answer told Calder more than a speech would have. They reached the courthouse archive in a tight stack. The courthouse archive sat 2 floors below ground. No windows, concrete walls, fluorescent lights that buzzed like insects. The air smelled of paper, dust, and old secrets. Price swept the aisles. Clear. Clear. Then Evelyn saw the dust. Then she saw the dust. A rectangle cleaner than the rest. Something had been removed recently. Price cursed under his breath. The clerk started crying. He took it. Rourke took the box. When? Evelyn asked. 3 minutes ago. Where? Judge's private elevator. Evelyn turned and ran. Not sprinted blindly. Ran with purpose. The kind of run that made everyone else follow without asking. They reached the private elevator as the doors closed above them. Price hit the button. Too late. Evelyn looked up at the floor indicator. Going to chambers. She grabbed the bolt cutters from the marshal. What are you doing? Price asked. Shortening the route. She cut the maintenance cage lock and pulled open the stairwell door. They climbed hard and fast. Evelyn burst through the stairwell door into the judicial corridor. A secretary screamed. Judge Vale stood outside his office, face slick with sweat. Stop her, he shouted. No one moved. Evelyn walked straight toward him. Where is Rourke? You have no authority here. She held up the access card from the false guard. This card came from your office. Vale looked at it. One flicker. Small. Enough. You signed the route change, Evelyn said. I signed dozens of orders. You signed one that led a poisoned witness into an ambush. Vale's mouth tightened. You cannot prove intent. No, Evelyn said, "but I can prove panic." Price stepped past her. "Judge Vale, step away from the door." Vale laughed. "You cannot arrest a federal judge on a nurse's accusation." Calder's voice came from the corridor behind them. "No," the Admiral said, "but I can request immediate judicial security review under Naval Witness Protection Authority." Vale turned slowly. Calder had arrived with 2 NCIS agents in dark suits. Real ones, not memories, not ghosts. Agents with badges out and eyes sharp. One of them, Special Agent Lila Monroe, looked at Evelyn like she already knew the file. "Nightglass," Monroe said. Evelyn nodded once. "Rourke has the box." Monroe did not ask which box. That told Evelyn enough. They moved through chambers. The private hallway behind the judge's office led to a secure elevator and a records prep room. Inside that room, Miles Rourke stood over a shred bin with a gray archive box open beside him. For one frozen second, everyone saw everything. The prosecutor's hand filled with old photographs. A flash drive taped beneath the lid. A stack of naval maintenance records stamped with dates, signatures, and counterfeit serial numbers. Then Rourke bolted. He made it 3 steps. Evelyn caught the box before it tipped. Monroe caught Rourke. Price caught the shred bin. Calder caught Judge Vale by the truth. "Do not touch anything," Evelyn said. Her voice carried across the room. Everyone stopped. She took photos first. Box position, seal remnants, contents, Rourke's fingerprints on the top folder. Shred bin contents, timestamp clock on the wall, then gloves, then evidence bags, then labels. A young marshal watched, stunned. "You do this like breathing." Evelyn sealed the flash drive. "I used to preserve what powerful men wanted buried." Rourke struggled against Monroe. "She is manipulating evidence." Evelyn looked at him. "No, I am preserving it. That is what frightened you." Monroe's phone rang. Monroe's phone rang. She listened for 10 seconds. Then her face hardened. "Chief Griggs is awake. Toxicology confirms exposure. Also, courthouse camera review shows Rourke entering the witness room 6 minutes before session." Rourke sagged. Vale closed his eyes. Evelyn sealed the last folder. "Then we go back upstairs," she said. Price frowned. "Why?" "Because the judge convicted me in public." She looked at Vale. "And the truth deserves the same room." The courtroom filled again under a different kind of silence. Not confusion this time. Fear. Reporters lined the rear wall. Deputies stood at every exit. NCIS agents occupied the side aisle. Judge Warren Vale sat behind the bench. But nobody looked at him like authority anymore. They looked at him like evidence. Miles Rourke sat at the prosecution table in cuffs. His expensive suit looked too large now. Evelyn Harper stood where defendants usually stood. Bright blue scrubs, wrists free, face calm. Admiral Calder stood beside her. Special Agent Monroe placed the sealed archive box on the clerk's table. The sound it made was small. The meaning was not. The senior marshal addressed the room. "This proceeding is being recorded under federal security order. Judge Vale is temporarily relieved of courtroom control." A gasp moved through the gallery. Calder faced the room. 30 minutes ago, Chief Petty Officer Samuel Griggs was poisoned in this courtroom before he could testify. 10 minutes later, armed men attempted to intercept his medical transport. 5 minutes after that, evidence tied to this case was nearly destroyed in judicial chambers. Reporters scribbled fast. Cameras blinked. Evelyn stared straight ahead. Calder continued. "The nurse this court convicted today preserved the witness, identified the poison, stopped the ambush, recovered the evidence, and maintained chain of custody." Rourke muttered. She had motive to stage it. Evelyn turned her head. "Mr. Rourke, you placed the bottle on the witness table." His face twitched. Monroe lifted a tablet. "Video confirms it." "You changed the medical transport route." "Access logs confirm it," Monroe said. You removed Archive Box 47. Witnesses and camera review confirm it. Evelyn's voice stayed even. And you prosecuted me because I was the only person in the building who could connect Daniel Pike's death to Chief Griggs's testimony. Rourke looked toward Vale. That was his mistake. Everyone saw it. Vale whispered, "Do not look at me." Too late. Calder opened the archive box, not dramatically, carefully, respectfully, like a man opening the belongings of the dead. Daniel Pike was an enlisted Navy supply analyst, he said. 7 years ago, he discovered counterfeit surgical devices entering naval hospitals through a defense contractor called Marston Vale Medical. Vale's face went white. Evelyn looked at the judge. "Your brother's company." Calder removed a folder. "These devices failed in trauma surgeries, vascular repairs, and emergency field kits. Sailors died from complications recorded as unavoidable. They were not unavoidable." A woman in the gallery began to cry. Evelyn saw her and knew. There were always families. Dead people had names. Calder placed another document on the table. Daniel Pike contacted NCIS Special Projects. His handler was Agent Evelyn Harper, call sign Nightglass. The word landed differently now. Not rumor, record. Evelyn felt the room turn toward her. She did not shrink. Calder looked at her. Agent Harper built the first case file. Before she could bring charges, Pike died in a clinic fire ruled accidental. Her evidence vanished. Her unit was ordered to close the matter. Monroe continued. We now believe that order was influenced by officials named in Archive 47. Vale stood. This is hearsay. The marshal moved toward him. Vale sat back down. Evelyn took one step forward. I need to speak. Calder gave her the floor without ceremony. That mattered. Evelyn looked at the gallery first, not at the cameras, not at the judge, at the people who had come to watch a nurse be destroyed. My name is Evelyn Harper, she said. I am a registered nurse. Before that, I was a special agent with NCIS. A ripple moved through the room. I worked cases involving naval corruption, contractor fraud, witness intimidation, and deaths that powerful people wanted explained away. Daniel Pike trusted me with evidence. I promised him protection. Her voice caught once. Only once. I failed him. Calder lowered his eyes. Evelyn kept going. When Daniel died, I was told the case was closed because my career would not survive the answers. She looked at Vale. I stopped being an agent. I became a nurse because patients do not care about politics when they cannot breathe. A pulse does not ask who signed the contract. Blood does not lie for a judge. The courtroom stayed silent. I did not falsify evidence. I did not kill Chief Griggs. I did not betray this court. I preserved what others tried to destroy. Rourke's head dropped. Evelyn looked at him. You could have served justice. You chose ambition. Then Vale. You could have honored the bench. You chose blood money. Then the gallery. And every person who called me just a nurse should remember this. Just is the word people use before they learn what someone is worth. A camera clicked. No one objected. Monroe stepped forward with a second tablet. Federal agents have executed warrants at Marston Vale Medical, the prosecutor's office, and Judge Vale's residence. Arrests are underway. Vale stood too fast. You cannot arrest me in my own courtroom. The senior marshal's face was cold. Watch us. 2 deputies approached. Vale reached under the bench. Left hand, Evelyn said. The marshal caught his wrist, and a small drive fell to the floor. Monroe bagged it. Guilty men reach for exits, Evelyn said. Desperate men reach for insurance. The cuffs closed around his wrists. The same sound Evelyn had heard that morning. Steel on bone. Only now the room understood the difference between punishment and accountability. Rourke started talking before anyone asked. Vale ordered it. Vale told me the nurse had to be convicted before Griggs testified. I did not know they would poison him." Vale turned on him. "Coward." Rourke laughed once, broken. "I learned from the bench." Calder looked away in disgust. As deputies led both men out, the woman in the gallery stood. "My son had one of those implants," she said. Her voice shook. "He died after surgery. They told us it was his body rejecting treatment." Evelyn walked toward her. Slowly. Not as an agent. Not as Nightglass. As a nurse. "What was his name?" Evelyn asked. "Matthew," the woman whispered. Evelyn nodded. Matthew deserved the truth. Then she held her while the courtroom watched. That image went farther than the arrest footage. A nurse in blue scrubs holding a mother who had waited years for someone to say her son's name without hiding behind paperwork. By evening, reporters packed the courthouse steps. Calder took one microphone. "The investigation will go as high as the evidence goes." Evelyn stood beside him, exhausted in a way sleep would not fix. Monroe approached with a folder. "Your conviction has been vacated. Charges dismissed with prejudice. Nursing board complaint withdrawn." Evelyn took the folder. The paper felt lighter than the cuffs. Monroe held out a temporary NCIS credential. "Consultant status, only if you want it." Evelyn did not take it yet. "What about Chief Griggs?" "Stable, asking for you." Evelyn walked away from the microphones. Calder followed. They rode to Naval Medical Center in tired silence. Griggs was awake in a monitored room, pale but alive. His wife held his hand like she had refused to let him drift even an inch. When Evelyn entered, Griggs smiled weakly. "Nightglass," he whispered. Evelyn pulled a chair close. "Chief." "Daniel said you would know what to do." Her throat tightened. "I did not know fast enough." Griggs shook his head. "You came back." Those 3 words did more damage than any accusation. Evelyn looked down. Griggs's wife reached across the bed and took her hand. "Thank you for keeping him alive." Evelyn had no clean answer, only the truth. "I was late once," she said. "I try not to be late anymore." Griggs understood. Old sailors often did. Calder stood near the window. "Chief, your testimony will be taken when your doctors clear it." Griggs nodded. "And the families?" "They will get answers," Evelyn said. "Promise?" She looked at him. Promises had weight. "I promise I will protect the evidence," she said, "and I promise I will not look away." Griggs accepted that. It was enough. 3 weeks later, Judge Warren Vale resigned before impeachment could remove him. It did not save him. Federal charges followed. Miles Rourke cooperated and still lost his license, his office, and the future he had sold for power. Marston Vale. Medical collapsed under warrants, audits, and families who finally had names for what had happened. Evelyn returned to the courthouse clinic with a new badge on her bright blue scrubs. Evelyn Harper, RN. Federal Witness Medical Advocate. Under it, in smaller letters, Consultant. No call sign. No secret title. Just work. Chief Griggs survived and testified. Daniel Pike's file became the center of a national investigation. Families who had been told their loved ones died from unavoidable complications received something painful but necessary: the truth. One morning, Evelyn stood in the memorial garden behind Naval Medical Center and placed a white flower beneath Daniel's name. Admiral Calder stood behind her. Griggs stood beside her with a cane. "He said you would know what to do," Griggs said. Evelyn looked at the bronze letters. "I was late once. You came back." Those 3 words did not erase the past. Nothing could. But healing was not erasing. Healing was learning to carry the truth without letting it bend your spine. That afternoon, a young veteran sat in exam room 2 with an old folder in his lap. "They said nobody can help," he told her. Evelyn sat across from him. "People say many things when helping is inconvenient." He looked at her badge. You the nurse from the news? Yes. You really used to be some secret agent? Evelyn opened his file. Today I am your nurse. His shoulders dropped. That was the moment she kept. Not the Admiral saying night glass, not the judge in cuffs, not the cameras. A frightened person realizing someone would listen. The work was still there. Broken systems did not fix themselves. Truth did not survive because someone shouted it once. Truth survived because someone guarded it again and again, with steady hands, open eyes, and enough courage to be hated by people who profited from silence. Evelyn Harper had been called guilty by a judge. She had been called dangerous by a prosecutor. She had been called night glass by a 5-star admiral. But the title that mattered most was printed on her badge in plain black letters. Nurse. Because a verdict can be shouted. A rank can be awarded. A secret can be buried. But character is revealed when the room turns cruel and someone still chooses to protect the vulnerable. That was the lesson Evelyn carried forward. Not every hero wears a uniform. Not every criminal carries a weapon. And sometimes the quietest nurse in the room is the only thing standing between the truth and the people trying to bury it. The end.